Did you see what show's coming back officially now, thanks to Netflix?
Friends.
No, not Friends.
Oh.
Think of a show that isn't, like, morally wrong. It's like dried toast of a show.
I have no idea. I have no clue.
The answer you're looking for is Full House.
Wow. Wait, why though? Hold on. Why though?
John Stamos?
Just be Stamos alone in a house, lamenting over his bad decisions. Damn you, Oikos!
It's just him surrounded by Greek yogurt.
And women, probably it's Stamos.
But not like 20s women, like women in their 40s.
Yeah.
Who've had like 12 kids.
Yeah, but they haven't had Stamos yet.
La 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 la. Here we go.
It's the Bible reloaded, the logic explosion, like Jesus and Moses, but it's Hugo and Jake. The Bible is jaded, and most of it taken, so get educated with Hugo and Jake. Pull up a pew and stop what you're doing, it's Bible reloaded time. They call it debated, the theists will hate it, like talking to taken, but it's Hugo and Jake. So on with the show then, it's not candy coated, it's the Bible reloaded with Hugo and Jake.
Hello everyone, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this is the Bible Reloaded.
And I'm back, motherfuckers.
Yeah, Jake's back from Idaho. How was that?
Ho.
Did you save the potatoes?
I did. That was my mission. I did potato things.
That was a close one.
And yeah, it was Ireland all over again. Just like that close.
Well, that's good. We don't want any Irish people coming here. Anyway, so today we're looking at yet another Bible thing, and today, finally, we're going to finish 2 Samuel, and you know what that means? David's about to die, which is good because I'm sick of him and I'm sick of Googling David Hasselhoff pictures. He is not an attractive man.
I have far too many in there. Are we selling the show as another Bible thing now?
Yeah.
That's how you introduce this segment.
That's what it is.
Okay.
This is a side thing at this point. People just want chick tracks and shitty Kirk Cameron movies.
Yeah, I don't want either of those things.
No, nor do I, but people seem to like them. So here's the table scraps of our show that was the original premise. Yeah, today we're looking at the last part of 2 Samuel, but it's very boring, so mostly we're going to summarize some stuff and kind of talk about David in general, and then we'll move on, and next week you can come back all fresh and clean, ready for some stuff about a dude who eventually comes to give advice about cutting a baby in half. But that's a story for another day. Today we're beginning in 2 Samuel, chapter 22, David's Song of Praise, but again, I'm going to summarize it because it's boring.
This is the worst. This is basically just David getting down. He took 2 knees, got down on both of them, warmed his hands up, spit into them, rubbed them together, and then started stroking God's dick.
Yeah, this is really just all David praising the Lord, and he says, "The Lord is my rock, blah, 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 blah." Kind of like "The Lord is my shepherd," but not that. Not as well written.
Yeah.
He's just talking about how good God has been to him, but interestingly, in verse 21, he does say, "The Lord has dealt with me according to my righteousness." Now, you'd think, without context, oh, he must be a good guy.
That's fair.
No, David, here's the things you have done in your lifetime. You've killed, according to the Bible at least, it's just not in sync with reality at all to say this happened, but probably at least 1 million people.
Yeah, like single-handedly.
Because it continues to claim he killed thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, which that adds up over a lifetime.
And he's racist towards giants.
He does not like the giant folk.
No, he doesn't. And he got mad at some sex slaves that his son dicked.
Yeah.
So he's not the greatest dude.
He took a man's wife, had sex with her. It's not clear as to whether or not it's rape, but I've heard rape.
Yeah.
At the very least, it was implied coercion due to his kingship.
Just like David Hasselhoff, like, actually gets in pants.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I'm the Hoff, but it only worked in, like, the 80s.
After David did that, she became pregnant, so he killed the husband.
Yeah.
And by the way, afterwards, God killed the child that she was pregnant with.
Which is like a get-out-of-jail-free card.
I know, it was supposed to be a punishment, but really, he came out of that on top.
That's just like a really late abortion.
Yeah.
Like an 18-month abortion.
And on top of that, he's kind of treated people like shit. But anyways,
righteousness implies that he had righteousness in the first place, which really isn't very... It should say, and God treated me fairly. I was kind of an asshole. I mean, he gave me king, but I mean, he killed some kids and stuff, and killed my boyfriend.
Then in verse 38, he continues and says, I pursued my enemies and crushed them. I did not turn back until they were destroyed. And this is him, by the way, boasting about what a good guy he is.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
No, other people did that, and we call them war criminals.
Yeah, for contrast, later on your morality will be turn the other cheek. I'm Jesus. We don't crush people.
I know, God's omniscience dropped the fucking ball here. He's like, well, maybe I'll change my mind in a couple hundred years. But for now,
Act 4.
vengeance.
Yes.
I am the knight. I am Yeshua. This next part is interesting too, because in verse 41 he says, You made my enemies turn their backs in flight, and I destroyed my foes. They cried for help, but there was no one to save them.
Oh.
Also pretty fucked up, but it was even more fucked up in an earlier translation, which was him saying that he put his feet on the necks of his enemies, which he did. That happened, if you'll remember. Yeah. But I just find it interesting that that's a
They kind of softened it up.
They softened it. That was a whitewash. There's no real reason to change that other than they thought it sounded a little too violent. So that's not cool, especially when you see that there are specific parts in the Bible where God says, don't change my word.
Yeah.
So they're not really reading their own book, but whatever.
Oops. And now we move on to the worst named section of any Bible thing that we've ever read.
David's last words, which isn't true because David is in the next couple pages. So, I mean, sure, it might not be in chronological order, but even so, David's last words are boring, so we're not going to read them to you. Maybe the last phrase.
I think instead of these actually being his last words, these are the last words that he said out loud, and the rest of this is through telepathy.
That must be it. I believe it.
Or spoken word poetry, which doesn't count as speaking.
No one can tell me it's not right. You can't prove that's not what it is, and that's generally the standard by which biblical literalists go by. So.
Right. And so at the end of this, we should probably snap our fingers. Instead of clapping, because that's what you do at a spoken word jam. You
don't snap like sporadically though. It's
but no, it's not fucking.
Like you're
it's not Sharks vs. Jets.
I know.
Dude.
I was just gonna say like you're a fucking jet. Once you're a jet,
No.
you're a jet all the way from the first cigarette to the. I forget.
Something gay. That rhymed.
I'm sorry. Into
Something
the Woods
you
writer,
say.
Stephen Sondheim. I apologize.
I didn't know anything about musicals.
It's probably good. It's really a detriment to my character. But after he says his last words, which are of no consequence, he just basically repeats what he said earlier, talks about God, praises God. But then we get to David's mighty warriors, and this is a little bit interesting and shows that even in his old age, David was a bit of a dick. These are the names of David's mighty warriors: Josheb, Beshebabeth, and Takamati.
That's a great name. I think Josheb, Beshebabeth, and Takamanti or Takamanite or what?
Takamanite.
The second guy is clearly a Native American that got thrown into the wrong place at the wrong time.
There was a schism. There was some sort of schism.
Timey-wimey. And he was chief of 3. So you see what I'm saying?
He was chief.
Chief Takamanamata.
Chief.
The Jew.
Chief Takamanamata, the Jew time traveler. Anyway, he raised his spear against 800 men whom he killed in one encounter. Interestingly, though, in 1 Chronicles 11:11, the same guy is mentioned and it says he killed only 300, so that's a bit of a problem with continuity, unless it's a different time he killed 300, but those are the only times, as far as I'm aware of, he's mentioned in the Bible, and it seems odd that they would be 2 separate incidents that he's famous for, and they only mention one in each place. It's probably a translation error, or just a different account that got fucked up over time, like the telephone game.
Clerical error on the accountants.
So here comes the good part. In verse 14, at that time David was in the stronghold and the Philistine garrison was at Bethlehem. Bethlehem, if you'll remember, was David's birthplace.
A little far away, though.
Yeah. David longed for water and said, "Oh, that someone would get me a drink of water from the well near the gate at Bethlehem." So he's saying, I want water from the place I was born, whatever. But the thing is, the Philistines, their enemies, are occupying it at the time, so they can't just walk right in there.
And it's also, like, it's kind of a distance. This is akin to, like, Kanye West going, hey, servants, probably white servants. Kanye would have white servants, just kind of like a retribution sort of thing. Hey, Clay and Tim, white servants, I'm Kanye. Go to a glacier and chip me off some glacial ice and make me a water.
That's probably something Kanye actually does, though.
Probably. That's why I picked him for this scenario.
Poor Kanye.
Poor Clay and Tim.
No, poor Kanye. Clay and Tim can quit. Kanye has to live with Kanye forever. So 3 mighty warriors broke through the Philistine lines, drew water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem, and carried it back to David. This is like a weird objective in a video game, like, hey, go kill all these people, sneak into enemy lines, and get a glass of water. And that's about it. So they do so, which they risk their lives and their limbs to go get a glass of water for David.
What if they spill it?
Here's the interesting part. But David refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out before the Lord.
This happens to Clay and Tim all the time.
Far be it from me, Lord, to do this. He said, is it not the blood of men who went at risk their lives? And David would not drink it. So David's reasoning for not drinking this water he made people go risk their lives for is that he made them go risk their lives for it. David, are you an idiot?
I think he's just getting really old. Or this is like The Devil Wears Prada, which is actually a fine movie.
You've told me that before. I don't believe you. I can't believe Glenn Close was in anything of value other than 102 Dalmatians.
Anne Hathaway carried it. The gay assistant turns the other cheek and turns into a nice guy at the end instead of an asshole trying to get the edge on Anne Hathaway's character.
None of that made any... No one cares.
Okay.
Jake.
Well,
Jake, I don't
I'm
know.
pretty sure that was the same guy that went on to star in Ugly Betty.
I believe that. Those seems like they'd have a crossover.
I do sound gay.
But I'd like to point this out, Jake. Have you
Yeah.
ever considered that the words that come out of your mouth are not wanted by anybody's ears?
Most times, yeah.
That's good.
But the thing about it is, you just gotta have confidence in yourself to not give a shit and be like, I'm just gonna say the words anyways.
That explains so much.
Yeah, like 85% of my personality is that.
Oh, God. Having, like, flashbacks of our friendship. Anyway, this last part I just like because it makes it sound like the other warriors they mentioned were, like, older brothers, and then this last kid they had to include because, you know, you can't be unfair, so it sounds like they just made up feats for him to do.
He wanted his kind of shitty report card put on the fridge, too.
Yeah.
But the parents put it underneath the other ones so that when people came over, they didn't see that they had one failure.
A valiant fighter from Kabzeel performed great exploits. He struck down Moab's 2 mightiest warriors, the unnamed ones, of course. He also went down into a pit on a snowy day and killed a lion. Why is the fact that it's a snowy day relevant? Good question.
Why was the lion in the snow?
Honestly, if it's in a pit...
Is it a mountain lion or a lion?
I'd be more impressed if you killed a lion out in the open.
Right. If he was it was just a snow pit.
Maybe
it was a hole and it snowed in it, and then the fucking lion fell down and broke his ankle and was like, I'm gonna kill you, lion. It was a mercy kill. But when he went back, he told him that he fought him.
He struck down a huge Egyptian. Like, well, what are the standards for that? Are you saying, like, he was, like, 9 feet tall, or was he, like...
Was he big for an Egyptian?
Was he 5'10"? Like, was he up there? Like, that's not that tall. I'm just short.
Egyptians were probably just short, though.
Such were the exploits of Benaiah, son of Jedediah.
Jehoiada.
Man, these names are getting Jewier. He too was as famous as the 3 mighty warriors. Well, then why isn't it the 4 mighty warriors? I disagree with your statement.
The 4 mighty warriors in Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, also a Native American.
So then today we're gonna finish on 24. David enrolls the fighting men. That's exciting, right?
Aren't you supposed to enroll yourself?
I don't know what's going on.
Is this a draft?
Yes, basically.
Oh, okay.
That was a natural way to explain that, Jake. You're good at your job.
Thanks.
Again, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel. We don't know why. It doesn't say. I think at this point we're just supposed to assume that they're really, really shitty people who don't follow instructions. And he incited David against them, saying, Go and take a census of Israel and Judah. This is because the census basically ensures that the fighting men are enrolled in the army so that if there is a war, they have to come with them.
Sure.
Which isn't a punishment as much as it is, upkeeping your army, but whatever.
Unless God's omniscience isn't good at statistical data, and he just really needed something on paper.
I think this is an interesting insight, too, into possibly the society that wrote this, because it makes me think whenever the politicians or the leaders needed to do a census they just said, God's angry, don't blame me. Yeah. I don't know if there's any actual evidence for that.
It seems very pragmatic to pull that on people that don't know better.
Yeah. But Joab replied to the king, May the Lord your God multiply the troops 100 times over, and may the eyes of my lord the king see it. But why does my lord the king want to do such a thing? I don't know, because it's your job, bro.
I love, well, it's Joab again. He's our guy. He's the one that's like, do we have to do this? We shouldn't do this. It's a waste of time.
The king's word, however, overruled Joab and the army commanders, so they left the presence of the king to enroll the fighting men of Israel. After they had gone through the entire land, they came back to Jerusalem at the end of 9 months and 20 days.
It took them 9 months and 20 days to count people.
By that time, it's not even going to be accurate.
You're an entirely different group.
Yeah. Joab reported the number of fighting men to the king. In Israel, there were 800,000 able-bodied men who could handle a sword, and in Judah, 500,000.
So that's 1.3 million people.
1.3 million people in this small area. Here's a map of the area they're talking about. They're saying that there are 1.3 million able-bodied soldiers.
That's not people, that's just the soldiers.
And for comparison, there are 1.46 million soldiers in the United States military.
So I'm going to call just a tiny fib on the part of the Bible in this scenario. I think maybe they have inflated the numbers by like 4 digits.
I don't even understand how they could try and profess this to being the accurate numbers. And I understand, before you comment and say, well, yeah, but everyone who was of fighting age had to fight. I understand that. Even assuming this is every single male from, let's say, 14, 15 to 35. Sure. That's way too many. That is so way too many.
Yeah, that doesn't really seem at all accurate.
David was conscience-stricken after he had counted the fighting men, and he said to the Lord, I have sinned greatly for what I have done. Now, Lord, I beg you, take away the guilt of your servant. I have done a very foolish thing.
He's guilty about counting them?
I don't understand what... I assume this is a historical context sort of thing that we would have to be Jewish around this time to understand. I don't know why he would be mad.
Is it
because he's recruiting people into the army? Is it
because he realizes the impact of a single action that he makes? He's like, oh, so I send 1.3 million people to their death or possible death every time I do something?
Is it because he expects the number to be higher and he's thinking his conquests have made people die, so the population isn't as high as it should be? But again, the numbers are so inflated, it doesn't really make sense to say that.
I have no idea.
Before David got up the next morning, the word of the Lord had come to Gad the prophet, David's seer. Go and tell David, this is what the Lord says. I am giving to you 3 options. Choose one of them for me to carry out against you.
This is so fucked.
Before we get to the actual options, I'd like to question, why does David need a seer if he talks to God?
I have no idea. Maybe he just was tired of it.
Maybe. Anyway, the 3 options are 3 years of famine in the land, which, okay, that seems like a lot. 3 months of running from your enemies, or 3 days of plague against your people.
That's the easiest answer ever. 3 days of plague.
Absolutely. I mean, statistically, you're going to lose more people fighting. You're going to lose more people in the famine. So sure, 3 days of plague.
Right, because, I mean, if you have famine, there's no eating for 3 months. That's bad. If you're running for 3 months, okay, but that's kind of shitty, and you might lose some people, and it's a time waster. 3 days of plague, just spread the fuck out and don't touch each other.
Doable.
Like, that's like a few people with plague. And also, it fixes both of the other problems. Because 1, you're not going to have a famine anymore. Lots of people are going to die from plague. That's like extra food now for the survivors. And enemies aren't going to chase after you if you have the plague. You have the plague! They don't also want the plague. Plague is the answer here.
David said to God, I am in deep distress. Let us fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is great, but do not let me fall into human hands. So he chooses the punishment from God, the plague.
Yes. Which is the first time David's made the correct decision in like 8 episodes.
So the Lord sent a plague on Israel from the morning until the end of the time designated, and 70,000 of the people from Dan to Beersheba died.
Still though, that's like, you throw a feast after that and like, you have too much food.
I know, right? When the angel stretched out his hand to destroy Jerusalem, the Lord relented concerning the disaster and said to the angel who was afflicting the people, Enough, withhold your hand. The angel of the Lord was then at the threshing floor of Arumnah the Jezubite.
I don't understand why does an angel get that job? Aren't they supposed to do good stuff?
I would say it's probably because this was still a time in theology when you had to have forces of nature personified, and instead of having specific gods like the Greeks and Romans did, they just sort of said, God, Yeshua, is the one in charge, and then he uses his angels, which are sort of aspects of himself, to go and do things, if that makes sense. I feel like it would be easier for them to wrap their head around God sends this angel to do this thing, because to them, the idea of a disease isn't its own thing. A disease is like a curse to them, you know what I mean? It's magical. A curse is something they don't understand, so they personify it in an angel, which is an aspect of God.
That sounds dumb. I'm pretty sure just the angel was the new guy.
Sure, whatever. The last part is just David builds an altar, and all that happens is David builds an altar to apologize for whatever thing he did that we don't understand. If you guys know what he did, like actually,
I think it's just
comment.
his general shittiness.
That must be it, but he was talking about how great he was the page before, so...
Well, he's great at being really shitty.
That's fair. Before we go, we have to point out that we are now partnered with Logic Tees.
Woo!
So, if you want to check out some cool Atheist shirt designs, go to BibleReloadedTees.com. I'll try and put it on the screen, but I don't think I'll be able to because of how Google handles links. Yeah. If not, it'll be in the comments and the description. Check out this shirt. It's a science rocket, akin to the Jesus fish. I like this design. It's cool.
But this does not conflict with the Patreon $15 donations, which get you a patron-only design from the artist responsible for the upcoming TBR video game. His name is Izzy Aminov, and here is a picture of that logo. Boom. That's fucking cool. So you can only get that one through Patreon, and then we'll have other designs coming up. If you guys have any ideas for designs you want to see on Logic Tees, we have a few in mind, and we're probably going to figure them out and upload them. But if you guys have anything in mind, have at it in the comments. Let us know what you guys would think. Upvote ones that you see are good, and hopefully we can get a bunch of upvotes, and maybe we can actually have your input, and we'll make a shirt.
And don't just say logo shirts, because those are coming. They're not on the site yet, but they're working on putting those on t-shirts, and obviously they have to put them in their system. So that'll be there soon, hopefully.
We're probably also going to have like Team Hugo, Team Jake, with like a quote from either of us, which will be cool.
On top of all that, of course, as always, you can always click on our Patreon and donate. That's really cool. We talked about the t-shirt thing before, and we just talked about the goals. So whatever about that. You can always follow us on Twitter at Bible Reloaded.
You can follow Hugo at Hugo Reloaded.
I'm talking really fast. You can go ahead and subscribe.
I don't know if just garbling at the end makes you talk fast.
Micro Machines. I don't know. Micro Machines. I don't know. FedEx commercial guy.
Okay.
Remember him from the 80s?
I'm Jake.
And I'm Hugo.
And we did that backwards.
And Bible
this
Reloaded.
Is the Reloaded Bible.
Bible Reloaded, guys. I'm just having a stroke, guys.
And next week we come up with a more offensive cold open than the one about orphans. Next week we talk about